Hello and welcome to the second video in the series of the advanced configuration. In the previous video, we have finished configuring the way in which IFV applications interact with their virtual and non-virtual environment, and now we'll move on to configure the different settings of the Bridge virtual client itself. So first, let's expand the install-free file share tree, expand the system tree, select Bridges branch, right-click it, select Properties, and switch to the Properties tab. Now, in this ADM-like interface, we are going to edit all the different aspects in which the Bridge virtual client acts and behaves. And please note that I'm going to give you along the way install-free's recommended values for each variable, but before utilizing our recommendations, make sure they coincide with your specific IT needs. Okay, so first for convenience, I'll just contract all the sections here, and then we'll go over them one by one. Okay, great. Now we'll start with the first section, the Bridge General Properties section, which controls various parameters of the Bridge virtual client itself. But before I start, please note that for each variable I will talk about, you can find a full description of it down here in the description section. So unless it's an important variable to understand, I won't go into too much detail about each variable, and if you wish you can later read each variable's description for more in-depth understanding, or of course consult your setup guide. But let's not waste time and dive right in. Now, the first variable I've selected, the Bridge Notification, simply controls whether the Bridge virtual client will show balloon notifications or not, and of course we recommend leaving it on. The next variable, the Bridge Self-Update, configures whether the Bridge client on endpoints will automatically update itself when a newer version is available. Now, since we recommend working with install-free's logon script, which takes care of updating the bridge when it runs, we disable the Bridge Self-Update variable by default and recommend enabling it only if you are going to use a deployment method that doesn't use a logon script. Okay, when enabled, the Bridge Silent Mode variable hides the Bridge virtual client's systray icon. This might be good for organizations that don't want their users to be able to stop the bridge, update their applications manually, or use any of the functions available from the right-click menu of the bridge. And we typically recommend leaving this setting disabled to allow users more flexibility, at least at the first stages of deployment. The Force Domain Mode variable is related to more advanced scenarios, so for now leave it set to No. When the Show Bridge Quit option is set to Yes, the Bridge virtual client's context menu will allow users to quit the bridge, as you can see now. So we recommend switching it to No in order to deny users the ability to shut down the bridge client. It might also be worth noting that during initial testing of the bridge, some of our customers find it easier to leave the quit option available and disable it when they actually start deploying it to users. When the Show Reset Application button is set to Yes, users will be able to delete the application's user data and reset their own applications using the Application Properties interface provided by the Bridge virtual client, as you can see now. So we recommend leaving this variable set to Yes, mainly in order to help helpdesk solve problems as they occur. Now, when the Connection Manager is set to Yes, the bridge will enable the use of the settings set in the Connection Manager, which enables the bridge to configure itself according to a set of conditions. Now, we have already mentioned the Connection Manager, but we'll go into detail only later in the Advanced Connection Configuration section, so for now leave it set as No. And finally, when the user data backup is enabled, the Bridge virtual client will create backup copies of user data files on the file share. This will allow users to revert to a backup copy, so we recommend leaving this setting on. Okay, now let's move to the Bridge Active Directory policies, which control parameters related to the way in which the Bridge virtual client reads the Active Directory tree and schema where applications are assigned to AD objects. The first variable, the AD Fetch Relatives mode, controls which applications are going to be available. The bridge will use this setting to decide whether to display applications allocated to computers, users, or both. This is a more advanced feature used in several advanced scenarios, for instance if you have separate domains for computers and users, but generally we recommend leaving it at the default computers and users. Okay. Next, we have the AD refresh policy, which we won't elaborate on and we'll just leave it at the default upon bridge check now. Other values are required only in more advanced scenarios. Okay, now in this variable named inherit applications from nested security groups, you should be somewhat cautious. The idea itself is that if you have a security group nested inside another security group, and then you assign applications to the parent group, members of a subgroup nested in the parent group will inherit applications. This, however, will lead to more processing time on the bridge side, and therefore enabling this feature is recommended only in environments where there are nested security groups in the Active Directory. This is why we recommend leaving it at the default No. Next, we have the Limit Active Directory Reading section, and this variable has to do with the way the bridge reads the AD tree. In principle, the AD tree is read from bottom up, so it starts with the lowest level possible and climbs up the tree up to its root. And what this variable allows you to do is to make sure that the bridge will read up to a certain point and won't go further up the tree. Now, this feature is usually used when you have two separate domain controllers, for instance one for computers and one for users. If you wish to enable it, you first need to expand it, and then input at which point the bridge should stop reading using a regular LDAP URL. For that, click the button here, type the highest domain component's URL you wish to reach, and make sure it's enabled. Now let's go on to the bridge clean policies here, which will help you save space on endpoints by cleaning unnecessary files. And these variables are pretty straightforward. The idea is simple. When the variables clean bridge files and/or clean user data files are set to yes, install freeze files and user data on the endpoints which haven't been used for the number of days defined here in the cleanup threshold time will be deleted. This will make sure, for instance, that old applications that aren't being used anymore will be removed from the computer. And you can see the default is set to 90 days. So this whole thing means the bridge files and user data that won't be used for 90 days will be deleted, and we recommend leaving all these variables at their default levels. Now let's go on to the bridge launch section that controls how and when the bridge virtual client is launched on endpoints. And again, these are pretty straightforward variables. When the run bridge on startup variable is set to yes, if the bridge is already present on the endpoint, it will run even without a logon script, and we recommend leaving it set to yes. The next variable, useLogonScript, simply controls whether a logon script is used to run the bridge. If you are using a logon script as your deployment method, you should leave it set to yes and switch it to no only if you are using a different method. Okay, so let's close this and go to the next section here, the bridge logs section, which controls the parameters relating to the log file created by the bridge virtual client. The first variable here controls the name and location of the log file, and we recommend leaving it the default location, which stores the log file in the ifbridge folder on the endpoint. The second variable, the log level, controls how detailed the log is, and we recommend using the highest level, which is 10, when 1 is the lowest detail level possible. The last variable of this section, the maximum log size, simply controls what the maximum size of the log file will be in bytes, and we recommend leaving it at the default size, which is 1 megabyte. Okay, so this concludes the first part of the bridge properties configuration, and in the next video we will continue to the next sections and variables. To watch the next video, you can either press the annotation link appearing now on the screen or follow the link in the description box. Thank you all for watching.